Welcome everyone to Healthy Living, Happy Midlife, the podcast by the Menopause Mentor. Oh, by the way, that's me, Denise Stegall. I am here today with Lindsay Hack. Lindsay and I have known each other for a little bit. We have a BFF in common. We both have followed a coach and friend for many years, and I think both of us can probably admit that she's one of the reasons why we're both successful in our career. So I'm really excited to talk to Lindsay about what she's up to. So let me tell you a little bit about Lindsay. So Lindsay Hack is the founder of The Identity Hacker, an AI strategist and a certified health and life coach. She's got over 2 decades, that's 20 years, of experience helping women transform their health, their mindset, and their habits. And she blends, you'll love this because I do, neuroscience, visualization, and AI technology to help clients see and become their future self. Lindsay, hi, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. And as you said, our common bond, I think, about, with Suzanne has just made it so much fun. And you and I have had conversations for fun and for work and for business and a lot more for fun. And so it's like, okay, let's talk about this. And I'm super excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I think what you're doing now is unique and so with the times. And so tell us a little bit about Lindsay as the AI hacker. How does that,
Yes.
what is that? And how did you get from health coach and life coach to this piece? I'm just blown away by this.
Yeah, so as everything happens, it usually is from a moment in time. And I'll tell you, so I've been doing vision board workshops for 15 years with my clients, for my health and my life coaching clients. And we started off in a coffee shop with glue sticks and magazines, and I did my very first virtual one back in 2016. And we evolved, right? Pinterest came along and Canva came along. Yeah, exactly. And we were we were able to create beautiful things. And I always say my dirty little secret that I didn't tell anybody till up till about 8 months ago was that I actually couldn't visualize myself. I would talk to my clients, and I had seen coaches and programs, and I even sat with the Dalai Lama in India years ago, and I could not find anything. It was a lot of nothingness, a lot of darkness. I always say, like, it's just, I couldn't find pictures, I couldn't find colors, and I thought I was broken, like you do. But as a woman in a world of people talking about how amazing visualization was, I did what any normal person would do. I smiled and nodded and pretended that I could, because fake it till you make it, to that degree. So for me, it was like, I knew how important it was, and I still wanted to teach about it, but I never told anybody my secret. And then about 2 years ago, I started playing with AI imaging because it was fun and it was cool. And I really liked it. For me, I wanted to try it out. My AI mentor, Jonathan Mass, was like, hey, here's a course, why don't you try it? So I was like, yeah, this is amazing. And then when it came time to do my next vision board workshop, I thought to myself, I wonder what would happen if I took some of my images and put them into my own vision board. Remember, this is all about me originally. And I was blown away. I ugly cried. I'm not going to lie. I was just like, oh my God, this is what everybody's talking about. I had never seen her before, my future self. I never understood it. And I mean, I even get goosebumps today where I talk about it, where I could not believe how powerful this thing was. And since then, I have not shut up about it. I teach workshops. I'm on podcasts. I want people to understand, because if I can help bridge the gap between the nothingness of visualization to the power of your future self, that's my goal. And since I shared my story about 8 months ago, I guess, in online, I've had hundreds of people reach out to me and say they had the same problem. They couldn't see, they really struggled. And, in my health coaching world, I always said everything I did was for my 80-year-old self, right? To get up off the toilet, to be non-burden to my kids, to do all those things, but I could never see her. I just knew that's what I wanted. And now I have an image of myself at 80 years old, looking hot and looking strong and, doing the things. And so to be able to support that, that's really what happened. And so for me, once I started seeing the differences in myself personally, and then I started teaching these workshops, showing other people how to do it. I work with coaches and creatives who are, trying to incorporate it even into their own business. I have seen so many incredible transformations. People who thought they just wanted to, be healthy have realized that they could show up for themselves in a whole different way. Women especially, and I'm sure you find this in your own world where you see women who finally step into themselves, their power, their excitement. We're going to change the world with this. And I am so excited and so passionate about it. Hence why I'm here talking to you today.
I love it. I love it. And I have to admit, I'm one of those people. Like whenever I've gone for meditation and they're telling you to imagine this, and I mean, even the simple thing like imagine the white light coming from your heart. I'm like, when I close my eyes, I'm like, it's
Yeah,
yellow.
nothing. Yes,
It's just there's a
exactly.
yellow color there. Oh, right now it's kind of green because I don't know, because I've got a big light shining. So I completely understand that. And like
Mhm.
you, I know why I'm doing the things that I do, right? I lift weights because I want to make sure I have muscle mass and bone density. And again, because I want to be able to be doing the things that I love today when I'm 80.
Yep.
Especially traveling. You're a world traveler. I'm a world traveler. I don't want to stop doing that just because I'm getting
Nope.
older. I want to do it more.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to have to think about, I often say, you have to think about the steps. So you have to think about how you get in and out of the cab. Or, I look at my mom, for example, and she has to think about these things. And so I'm with you. So I've always done it for my lifestyle. I've always done it because, I've been in this industry for 25 years. It's something that I'm truly passionate about, but I could never see it. And so now that's changed. And so, instead of having a picture on my vision board of a pair of running shoes, I'm now crossing the finish line, with my outfit on, sunglasses on, and I've done my trail race. And so, you talked a little bit about the neuroscience. I'm a huge geek when it comes to this, so we can talk more about it. But now it's no longer trying to tell my mind it's possible. It sees it and it already knows that it's possible because it's already done it. So it completely shifts how we do things. And that's why we're able to step into ourselves, into that power, and really become our future self now. And it has just been a massive shift from, as I said, women who were too afraid to show up before, who didn't love how they looked, who weren't feeling great about their bodies, whatever it was, they're able to do it. And it changes everything.
I love that because we're in a phase of transition anyway, right? And we're always in a phase of transition, but it seems like this midlife transition, there's so much
Mm-hmm.
going on mentally, physically, emotionally. So this is fantastic. And I know you have the future self formula, right? How to
Mm-hmm.
create energy, confidence, and clarity, right? Without the hustle. So let's talk about the
Mm-hmm.
formula and then let's get into the neuroscience piece, and how it works.
Yeah,
And by the
absolutely.
way, at the end, I want to go back to your story about the Dalai Lama, but we'll keep flow now. We'll go back to that.
All right. All right. I love it. So the future self formula really is about flipping that old model, right? So instead of earning your way to a new identity, so, I kind of used to say we used to like white knuckle it. And I mean, especially in midlife, whether you're a mother, whether you have kids or a career or whatever, we just white knuckle it and try to get through it with discipline. But when you start with identity, which is what I really focus on, we're actually changing that traditional habit to say, what, do the thing, become the person. And your brain doesn't really think that that's what it's like, wait, what? I don't know if I should believe you. Right. But what happens with the future self formula is now we're helping our brain see the version who is already energized, confident, consistent. And those actions start naturally showing up because it's that identity shift. Right. So I think of it as identity, action, results, not the other way around. And the old
Mhm.
way was do it, discipline, make it work, do it, and everything else will follow. But that's not what happens, especially I feel like now in midlife where I know better, right? I call BS on that because it's like, it's not more discipline. It's not more motivation. It's not more any of those things. It's actually be the person I want to be, step into that, and everything else will follow that path.
I love that because I think you're right. We've been taught this is, this way, right? Work hard, and when you're younger, especially when you're in school, there are steps, right? You get, you're in high school, you're a junior, you're a senior, you graduate and go to college or, some kind of program or whatever it is you do, right? And then you finish that and then it's like, okay, the world is open to you, but you got to work hard. You got to just,
Mm-hmm.
push, 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 drive, drive, drive. And I was exhausted with that by the time I was in my early 30s. Like, how much more drive, and it wasn't even passion anymore, right?
Right.
Because I was putting so much effort into a job, what I thought was a career was really a job, right? I was putting so much time and energy into this that I kind of lost my identity. Like, why was I doing this? Was I doing this really just for a paycheck?
Mm-hmm.
And when
Mm-hmm.
I look back, yeah, that's kind of what it was about. Because we're always told, go to school, or training of some kind, and get a good job.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
lose such a big piece of yourself in that.
Yeah. And
And it's
I
a
mean,
shame
I'm
that we
sure.
don't understand that until we're in this phase where we're like, if we only knew then.
Totally. But here it's so funny. I was just talking. So I have two teenage daughters. They're almost 18 and 16. And, I'm having a conversation with them and I'm saying stuff to them. And then I'm like, you know what? Somebody probably told me something similar to this when I was younger and I just kind of ignored it. So I actually feel it's all part of the process, right? It's the similar idea of, like, you don't get to have 9 women be pregnant for 1 month and still have a baby. We all have to go through certain things, right? You have to go through,
That's
if
true.
we,
That's a good
if we
point.
popped it, if we popped out teenagers, we'd be in a big trouble because that's why we have, the baby, the newborn, the toddler,
Mhm.
whatever. And I just think that that's how it is. I believe that there are so many things that you could learn when you're younger, but the reality is it's really hard to understand because you don't have that frame. You don't have the glasses to look at what it's like when you're in your 50s, when you're in your 20s. I mean, your body is different, your thoughts are different, your experiences are different, all these different things are happening. So it's all about that learn. So as much as I would love to say, like, oh, if I could, wave my magic wand and take me back, I wouldn't have listened to myself back then anyway. So, what are we going to do? So I think now is the
Probably
time
true.
to really look at it, right? In your midlife is when we say, okay, now we're starting to learn, open our eyes, understand that if identity comes first, then we're not going to lose ourselves, right? And we talk a lot about burnout and hustle and all of these terms, especially in the entrepreneurial world. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to experience them once to really truly understand them, but I do believe that we've all been there, especially if we've reached this point in our life in a midlife world, right? I've been
Mhm.
burnt out. I've gained tons of weight. I've done all of these things. Where now, if I look at it and I say, this is me now, this is my future me now, whether I'm 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 80 years from the future, how do we become that person? So that identity is really where I start. I don't start about strategies. I don't work with, different things. I say, let's start with your identity and move forward with that. Because as I said, once you see her, first of all, you can't unsee her. And that's the beauty of these AI images. But the second thing is you don't want to. You want to be her. You want to do the things every single day to make her be a reality. And so that's really where that identity piece comes in. And I just love it because I've seen such incredible transformations, not just in myself, but it was clients and members in my community. And it's been amazing.
I love it. And we'll talk about the community a little later. So the neuroscience piece. So this identity, challenge
Yes.
number one, we don't believe it, or
Yeah.
maybe we want to. How does the neuroscience piece, how does our mind come into this? Because so often people are like, yeah, whatever, sounds great, but it won't
Mm.
work for me.
So, oftentimes I say it's a little bit of woo, a little bit of do, and we bring it together. That's the easy way to describe it.
The
But the
woo
truth of
do.
the matter is, yeah, the woo do. The truth of the matter is that neuroscience is a very real thing. And so when people come to me and they say, oh yeah, but it doesn't really work for me, my first course question is, well, what did you do? But here's the thing. So if you think about our reticular activating system, it is our RES. If you ever hear people talk about it, I know you know about it, right?
Mhm.
We have 4 major areas for that. Okay. It's kind of like the bouncer in our brain. It's what's going to allow information in. I mean, look around. We have sights, we have smells, we, have all these things. There's trillions of gigabytes hitting us at the same time, and we cannot take all of that in. It's impossible. So the bouncer in the brain, the RES, basically is saying, okay, what's important? Let's bring it in. So the first one is always your name. If you're ever in an airport and somebody says your name and you're just like, what? That's the RES saying that could be important. The second one is that intuition, that idea of like, should I go down that dark alley by myself? Probably not. Okay, thanks for telling me. The third one is sexual advances, really good for the human race. And then the fourth one, which is most important in what I do, is it lets in what it thinks is important to you. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that because it's so important to understand. It lets in what it thinks is important to you. So I'm sure you know these people who it's always Debbie Downer. Oh God, everything's so terrible, whatever. The RES is like, oh, let me show you more evidence about how terrible the world is, right? We know this happens. If we flip that switch and we say, what's important to me is, I want to talk on a TEDx stage. I want to be a world traveler. I want to do these things. And all of a sudden I'm creating images of you doing those things. And I look at them and I journal about them and I think about them. The RES is like, oh, let me show you more evidence about that. And so the people who are constantly like, oh, woo-woo-wee, not sure I like that. My example that I always give, and there's not one person who I've said this to that they're not just like, oh, I do understand what you're saying, is a brand new car. Okay, whether it's brand new to you or brand new in general, when you go and buy your car and you pull it off the lot and you're driving around and all of a sudden there's 1,000 cars that are exactly the same color and shape and model of yours. It didn't magically happen. There's no woo-woo-y in that. What it said was your RES was like, oh, this red Corvette is super important to you. So let me show you all the red Corvettes around, right? So we've all had that experience. And I teach a lot to do with the neuroscience. And one time I was saying within my group, I'm like, everybody pick something, right? Something that is going to be very unusual, but not necessarily, one of the girls was like, I'm going to pick a pigeon. And I'm like, okay, or a unicorn. Okay. And whatever. And it doesn't have to be real life. It also is just everywhere you go. So where I live in Mexico, we live in what's called the center or the heart of Mexico. So there are hearts all over here. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pick a heart, but it can't be, and I put some, disclaimers on it. It can't be a heart in the middle of the centro. It can't be, a heart shaped anything. And I was hiking with my husband. We were up like in the mountains and there was a cactus and it naturally had this heart shape in it. And so it's like your brain is always looking for evidence to show you that that's important to you. And that's where the neuroscience really comes in. I mean, it also helps the neurons, are telling yourself, we don't know the difference between real and conversation in our head. So if you ever see like Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, some of these really big athletes out there, they visualize their game before it happens, right? Because the neurons are telling the brain are telling it's possible. And then of course, from motivation and front of mind, right? And I'll use my own example for this. I have an image, it's my hot bod gym image of me when, I'm 55, 60, as I'm growing, I'm getting older. And it is a gorgeous image of me. And I have it on my computer as my kind of screensaver. And I was supposed to go to the gym one day. And as you do, even as a fitness professional, I'm, all the excuses, not wanting to, all those things. And up popped this image. And my future self was basically like, get your ass out of the chair and go to the gym. Right? Did it make me do it? No, but it encouraged and motivated me enough to get my butt out of the chair and go to the gym. So we have these things that go on inside our brain, right? We have limiting beliefs. We have, as I said, the RES is telling us all these things. If we can tap into those things to make it better, easier, simpler is probably a better word, to get what we want in terms of our goals and our future self, why wouldn't we take advantage of that? And that is what I've seen, right? That's what I've seen with these amazing images, is because I'm getting people to take in that it's not just possible, but it's already done. And now their RES is like, yeah, sure. Let me show you all this evidence to prove to you that it's done, but you have images right here for you. So it's just a very, very powerful way to help us step into ourselves.
So like you said, I understand the RES. And actually in the book behind me, The Healthy Thinking, the one in the middle, there's a whole chapter on the RIS. And so it's something that most educated people have heard about. What, and it makes sense. I mean, I remember a story. My uncle used to say, you'll never see a green car broken down on the side of the highway. And wouldn't you know, he's so right. There's a green car there. There's a green car there. So you're right. These are things that we've experienced most of our life. What do you think gets in the way of us believing that we can? Believing we could be that person?
It's a great question. I think, our brain is really wired for certainty right? It is. That's just the human brain. So when it starts thinking about pretty pictures on a vision board, for example, or beautiful ideas written on a page, coming back to what I said, I can't see those things. So it really isn't. So I always say the brain doesn't really chase pretty, it chases proof. And so I think what happens is when our bodies don't feel safe or familiar, we feel that threatened and we get into that self-sabotage, and it's protecting us, right? And again, well, I'm sure we could talk for hours about that whole thing, but I think the reality is the emotional safety through visualization, identity work, calming the nervous system, right? Those things are all going to stop challenging the old way of our brain. And really, it's the fastest way to get that change to stick for us, because it's not about being scary, it's about being safe. And self-sabotage, again, I've done an 8-week program on this, so there's no way we're gonna go over this all in one thing. But we often sabotage ourselves because we want to feel that safety, right? And so when I have a vision board, obviously coming back to that has, me standing on a stage, or actually in the old world, it was somebody standing on the stage, and instantly I would look at that and I'd be like, oh, that's never going to be me. Good for them, but that's never going to be me, right? And our brain doesn't believe it. It calls our own BS on ourselves, right? So when we bring it into a place where it is actually you, it can help rewire some of those irrational beliefs we have. I have a client who had talked about writing a book. I mean, I know you have your books there, they're beautiful, talking about writing a book for 20 years, right? And every time she sat down to write, she'd have those beliefs. Nobody needs to know anything that I have to say. Who am I? I'm not good enough, right? We all have those. I call it the inner bitch, like da 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 da, right? So I created her an image of her not only writing her book, but holding her book, reading it at her book launch in a bookstore. And so I said to her, bring up this image every time you go to write. And so take a moment, look at the image, and have what I call your mini manifestation moments, right? You're sitting there, you're looking at it. I'm reading my book out loud. There's a packed room in this bookstore. They love my book. I can't wait to sign it for them. And then she would sit and write. So in 20 years, she wrote nothing. In the last 6 months, she's on chapter 11. And it's just because she saw that it's possible with her image, right? And her brain is like, it's done. You're already in the bookstore. You've already written your book. It's there for you to do. And so now we're not thinking scary anymore. We're thinking, yeah, this is amazing. I've done it. And so I think that really makes a huge difference on why it's so possible for us to see it. Because again, instead of it being someday, it's now, wow, there it is. It's no longer someday.
Lindsay, you just made me think of something when you said, it has to be a picture of you, right? That's obviously what we're talking about. And I did this, I don't know when I did this. So I love the Today Show. I've always loved the Today Show. And I want to be on, I would like to get on the Today Show, Jenna and Friends. So what I did here, I don't know if you can see that, everybody. There's a picture of me and a picture of the Today Show, and then there's Jenna Bush Hager.
I love it.
Okay, so I'm looking at this image pretty regularly. It sits here. We're going to talk, you and I will talk offline later about this. So since I put that image together, and yes, it's a picture of me, I now have a monthly interview on our local television show, Midwest Access. It's on Wednesdays. Each month I'm on that program. And I believe wholeheartedly that opportunity came because I could see it. Right. At the time, did I believe it? I don't know, but I kept seeing it. And I was like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And that one interview, that first interview, or after that first interview, I was invited to come back every month.
And
it may not be the Today Show yet, but heck, this is a lot closer.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so interesting, right? I mean, you and I, we've had this conversation before. We've been in this industry a long time. Do you remember the days where people used to cut out the magazine picture of the model and then stick their face on it and put it on their fridge, right? So they wouldn't open the fridge. It is a very similar scenario to that, but instead of, photoshopping it and making it look like you, it is you. It becomes you, right? So, I've had a client who has been talking on stages for years, same idea. And, we didn't want to start with a TEDx because that's hundreds of thousands of people plus millions on YouTube. It felt too big for her. So in your case, I think that's probably what happened, right? You created it, but that might have been too big. So your system is like, ooh, that's too big. So let's start here. And it's kind of those moments where you're taking steps towards it. So I'm sure that this one you're on right now is that stepping stone to the Today Show, because at the time the Today Show might have felt too big and your brain was like, I don't really think so. But now when you look at it after doing this show for the last, however many months you've done it, you're then like moving to that next one, right? So again, in your case, it's an exact picture of you and the Today Show. And that's really where it comes from, right? Once we see ourselves in that scenario, we're able to believe it. And maybe it still feels big, but again, I like to take those stepping stones, right? As I said, with my client, we started at her local BNI, there's 12 people in that group. Then we moved to another level where now she's on a bit of a rise, a little bit of a riser on stage. And then we build, and yes, we will get her TEDx stage, hundreds of millions of people, but sometimes we need that stepping stone as well to really, truly believe it, right? It's like saying, I'm going to be a billionaire. That may feel so big right now, but let's just talk about the smaller steps to work our way through. And so that's really how I do it with imaging, is I have this big idea, this big goal, this big dream, and then I take it in steps. And then I create all the different steps to get to that big one. And all of them help with that RES, that mindset, that belief that it's possible.
I mean, it's crazy. I'm blown away by this because it's something that I've known, but not really explored in this manner, this deep. So it's really exciting. Let me think. Okay, so for listeners who are ready to feel this energy and this confidence, what is a daily practice, right, that they can do right, starting today, right? Down, in the show notes, we'll have links to for them to be able to connect with you. And I recommend everybody connect with Lindsay because this is so timely, and in midlife, this is when we want to really know who we are and have the confidence to grow into the woman that we're becoming, right? We're always becoming, we're always growing and learning. So what's one thing that someone can do right now, start as soon as they get off the podcast?
Yeah. So I call it the future you 3x3. Okay. This is something I do with all my clients. And I do this in whether you have an AI image of yourself or not. This is something that you can definitely start with. Okay. So write down 3 ways that you can show up like your future self today. Okay. That may be changing up your morning playlist to feel energized. That may be drink water before your coffee. I mean, these are things that we talk about, in the world of health and life and fitness anyways, right? Go for a walk, whatever it is. You're collecting that proof of becoming her, right? Proof builds belief, right? And belief shapes that identity. And then identity drives the behavior. And that's without the hustle. That's without the, but small wins every single day, they compound really fast. Right now, of course, if you have an AI image, which is something that, of course, I'd love to teach people about, then I say use those 3x3s with your images, right? So you have an image of yourself that, maybe and this is my own example. So I created my very first AI image I ever created was me at the top of Machu Picchu in Peru. Okay. It is something that I have wanted to do my entire life. And currently I have it booked for May. So fingers crossed, everything goes well. But so I would take that image and I would look at that image and say, what could I do today? Right. Well, I got to keep moving my body because I know I can't climb do the 5-day hike on Machu Picchu without, moving my body. Right. I call them those mini manifestation moments because you can look at it, feel it, hear it. What are the sights? What are the sounds? What am I doing one way to show up like her today? And then move that. So again, you don't have to have your AI images to do this, to do the future you 3x3, but it really is about stepping into that future you right now. What is it that you would do? Now, when I couldn't visualize, I could still do this. I could still figure out what it was I was going to do, but the image or the, that visualization piece of it just makes it that much stronger. And that's what I have found with with my images that I can use, whether it's, talking on the stage, writing the book, going the traveling, whatever it may be. If you have an image of, making $1 million as an example in your business, if you aren't taking steps towards doing that, then it's just a thought, right? But when you do the future you 3x3, well, what did I do today? Well, maybe I did my content. Maybe I reached out to 2 people in the DM. Maybe I talked to a friend and said, hey, can I come on your podcast? Whatever it is, right? It's building that belief that I am my future self right now. And now that I am her, then I can step into her bigger and step into her better. So that's a really easy way to get started.
I like that because it's an action. Like we can
Mhm.
take action and do, move ourselves forward, whether you see it or not. Like any
Yes.
kind of action is going to bring you closer to a result that you want. So I think that I love that. I love that idea. And I like the idea too, is, journaling about this. If you're going to, what are you going to do? I love to write things down, like write it down. Like this is what I'm going to do to, 3 things I'm going to do today to get closer to that person I want to be. And
Yeah.
once you've written it down and then you actually do the action, how much more connected you actually feel to it.
Uh, Absolutely. Absolutely. When I work with people individually, when I'm either creating their images and their vision board for them, I do a custom GPT that I created for them. And it basically asks them about their life, their perfect day or whatever it is. And we go really deep into it, but it ends with 3 journal questions. Cause as I said, 3x3, right? And the idea is you are in your space. You're talking about your future self. What is she doing? What is she wearing? What is she smelling? What is she seeing? All of those things. And it just, even though I haven't created any images for anybody yet, it gets you to a place where you truly feel that, right? You feel that. And then of course I also do a deep dive and I do a bunch of other things with it. But the idea is to really, truly get there, because once you feel it, then when I bring in the AI images of the seeing it, right? I always say, feel it, see it, believe it. And that's the truth of how I work my methods, because you can feel it, which I have done for years and years and years. I've just never had that see it part, right? That was a smile and nod. Remember, it was like, yeah, okay.
Yep.
And then the believe it. So it's just, it's working with that on every level. And then, the more you write it, the more you believe it, the more you show up it, the more you do it, the more you believe it. So it's just this beautiful little stepping stone of really getting into that future you character, so that, when you think about traditional vision boards, that's exactly what it was like, looking at yourself on, the Today Show, maybe looking at if you're running a race or if you're, wanted to write your book or whatever it was, but now you just see yourself in there. And that's where the RES is really like, oh, okay, let's go find some evidence for this. And so it's just been this beautiful, transformation for so many people when they get to see that themselves.
Love it. Is there anything else you'd like to mention about this? Before I ask you that question that I said before, we're gonna go back to this Dalai Lama story, because I know there's a great story in there, and we're storytellers, right? So
Yeah.
anything that we missed?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to just remember that everybody's idea of their perfect life, their dream, their goal is going to be different, right? And I often say this to people. So, you probably aren't going to see houses and boats and cars on my vision board ever, because I'm a travel girly and I will always be one. And I have very big dreams in certain areas of travel. But that's okay, right? And I think the big thing is people often think like, what should I put on a vision board? Or what should I be thinking about, right? And it comes back to that should of like, what did somebody tell you should have been when you were a kid, or what's, as a woman or a mother or whatever, what should you be doing? And it's like, no, it's getting clarity first. And so I do actually work with clients if they are struggling. I usually have 2 people that see me, one that has so many goals we don't even know where to start, and the other one who is like, I'm not really sure what I should put here. So, clarity and understanding that my vision board, your vision board, everybody else's vision board, it does not matter what it looks like. I mean, I always joke, I did an image for Suzanne with her and her white Porsche and red leather interior. And if you've been friends with her or you've worked with her, everybody knows this story about her Porsche, right? And I created it for her, and God, she looks amazing. She looks so hot in it. It's great. But it's just, I would not have myself in a car, but that doesn't mean her vision and her images are any different than mine. And so that's a really, really big one that I like to say to people, is that it really doesn't matter. I have done images of people in bathtubs of money, And I have done, you know, images of people with multiple dogs flying privately on a chartered flight. Like everybody's idea is going to be theirs, and it's beautiful and wonderful. And we don't ever have to compare to what other people are going to do, as long as you believe what you're working within that images and those vision boards are true to you. And so I always really say to them, like, is this what you want? Or did someone tell you this is what you should want? And that's really where we want to do. We want to be honest, right? Because again, remember I told you that RAS is not going to take our BS. It's not going to believe anything that's not true. And you can say it, right? I always say you can lie to everybody, but when you start lying to yourself, that changes everything. And like, we are going to be able to call that out, because the RAS is going to be like, nope, not going to do that. I don't believe that to be true. So definitely think to yourself, what should go on mine? What clarity items should I have? And what do I want, not what other people want? And that's a really big piece when we start working together, if that was something, because I don't want anyone to think what's on mine or what they see of mine is what they should do, because that's not necessarily the truth at all. What you're doing and what I'm doing are two very different things. That's what makes us beautiful human beings. So
I love it. Okay, and before we leave, we will talk about the free the community real quick, and the freebie. But I do want to go back, because you mentioned that you spent some time with the Dalai Lama, and didn't want to cut you off there, but I want to know, tell what was that about? I mean, the Dalai Lama, really? Because everybody just goes and spends time with the Dalai Lama.
I know. And you know what? It was the most incredible thing. Actually, I was just looking at some stuff, because we're currently packing things up as we move on to our next adventure. And I have, I can't remember the name of it. And I feel really bad that I don't know the name of it, but it was a scarf that basically, it's like a linen silk scarf, and he would bless it, and then he would give it to everybody. And so I have that in one of my bags. And so of course I pull it out, and I'm starting to think about it and whatever. So anyways, my husband and I, before we were married, went traveling in India for fun. Of course, that's what you do when you're a traveler. And we actually went up to a really small mountain town called McLeodganj and Shimla, which is like really high north. And it's where all the Tibetan refugees came after everything that happened over in Tibet. And so what happens was, there's the Indians who live there, and then there's the monks who live there, and English is the common language between the two of them. And so what we were asked is, would we consider teaching English to the Tibetan monks within this town? You know, as English speakers, no idea how to teach English, for that matter, just putting it out there. I learned how to speak English as a young age, don't know how to teach it. So we would do our best, and we would teach English to the Tibetan monks so that they could speak to the people who lived in the community. And so that was incredible. You get to learn all of these incredible stories of monks, going barefoot, and like, I mean, amazing. But the Dalai Lama was coming to town, and he has a house there. That's, I think, where he lives, but he travels and was doing all of these things. And so I have a picture of him driving up to where his house was, and the streets are just lined with people, and they're just in absolute, these are people who worship this man, right? Who just think, so they're all, doing their bow and doing it, and have this beautiful picture. And somebody turned to me and said, "Are you going to meet him?" And of course I was like, wait, what? I can meet him? Like, I didn't even know this was the case. And so they said, yes, he has an open meeting round, whatever day or whatever it was. And unfortunately, actually, my husband was really sick at the time. He had a really bad toothache. He was hallucinating on crazy amounts of drugs. So he didn't actually get to come with me. So there I am, white girl, blonde hair at the time, blue eyes, by myself, walking into this temple. And these guys had these massive machine guns, which as a Canadian, I was already like, I walk in, and it is with a ton of locals. So a ton of, Tibetan monks. And then there was a handful of us who were classified as like the foreigners who could go in. So he does this whole thing with everybody, talks to everybody, and then starts talking in English to the rest of us. And it was just this incredible, I mean, he was an amazing man. And then he went through and he blessed all the scarves, and he did all of the locals first. And then he did the few of us, and, got to shake his hand. And I'm not a massive religious person in general. It's not something that's ever been part of my world. And I was absolutely blown away. I couldn't even talk. I didn't know what to do. Like, it was just,
wow.
I have met a ton of movie stars in my life, a ton of famous people, and I've never fumbled, never considered anything to be that big of a deal. And with him, I was just absolutely speechless. And so, yeah, so I got to meet him. He talked a lot about, just life in general, because of course I was teaching English to Tibetan refugees. He was very thankful for that. And so it was just a beautiful thing. And unfortunately, my husband missed it, but I have it. And now
But you
I
have
can
that
tell people.
incredible memory. And
Yeah.
this to me, this is what life is about. It's the journey. It's the things that you don't expect that come into
Mm-hmm.
life. And this is how we're helping women. This is how you're helping women to find those experiences and do things and see things that they don't they can't even dream of right now. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing that with us. That's an incredible story.
Yeah, you're
Okay, so back to
welcome.
like today. Um, um, so we need to wrap up. So I would love for you to tell us a couple of things. I know you have something that you want to share with us, and
Mhm.
also talk a little bit about your community. So maybe talk about the community quickly, and then the one last thing you want to share with us.
All right, perfect. So I have a community in school called the AI Identity Lab, and basically it's free to join, and there's different levels in there to learn different things. But if you're like, how do I even get started with this? I love the idea of identity. I love the idea of AI images, but I don't even know where to begin. That's where I'm going to invite you into, because I do teach you how to create images. We do videos. The idea behind it is really stepping into your future self, becoming visible in a very noisy online space, and creating your future you images. And so it's just a beautiful place where we all get together. And, I have people who are very new, never ever done AI imaging before, to people who are part of it and have been a part of it with me for the last few months. So it's just a really great environment to be in, because you get to learn, but you also get to try. And I always say with AI, it's all about playing, right? Playing. If it's silly, I have two hands, I have too many fingers, I have, weird looking things there. We're a judgment-free zone. So we play, we practice. We're actually doing a 21-day prompt challenge right now. It just started today. And so you get a prompt and you try it and you see how it goes. And then you get some feedback and what could work and what tools to do. And so it's just a really great place to start if you are brand new. That's for sure. And then I also do have a Rewire Your Brain for Success using AI images. And it's a video, and it is a document. And it's taking what I've said today and just kind of moving it along the needle a little bit. So what do I do? How do I use it? That kind of thing. And so that is something I'm assuming, Denise, you'll put somewhere in the information, but jump on that and you get, as I said, the brochure, you get a video, and you get some great tips from me, because as I said, I'm really passionate about it. But here's the thing. Even if you see my gorgeous images or my clients' images or our vision boards, you will never truly understand until you see yourself, because mine are still generic. They don't have the same feeling that yours will. So I always encourage somebody to get into it so they can see it, feel it, and then believe it.
I love it. See it, feel it, believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I appreciate all of the energy. We can tell how passionate you are about this, and really how much fun you're having with it. And I think that's a really special piece. This is something that should be fun.
Yes. Yes. And I
Love
do
it.
love it. And again, I am very passionate. So again, if you have any questions, there are no stupid ones. First of all, everybody started at some place, and I just like talking about it. So hook me up, come and see me, and then ask the questions, and I will be there to answer them for you for sure.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone, for listening or watching if you're seeing us on YouTube. I appreciate that. We are here every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific time. Some weeks I've got a guest, some weeks you just got me. This week, you got a special guest, and this has been a great conversation. So, everyone, until next week, I leave you with this, of course: healthy living, happy midlife. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Healthy Living, Happy Midlife. My hope is that today's conversation left you inspired, encouraged, and ready to take the next step toward creating a vibrant, fulfilling life that you deserve. Remember, you don't have to settle for fatigue, brain fog, or frustration. Midlife is not the end of your story, it's the doorway to your next best chapter. And I'm here to help you walk through it with energy, with confidence, and with joy. So if you're ready to take this journey further, I invite you to schedule a free strategy call with me. The link is in the show notes.
and together we'll design a plan that works for you at this time in your life, for your body. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review your show, the show on your favorite podcast platform. Catch the video version on YouTube so you never miss another episode. Share it with a friend who needs to hear that midlife can truly be the most powerful season of her life. Until next time, I'm Denise Stegall, reminding you that healthy living, happy midlife is just possible. It's yours for the